like finance committee, the other the two. I'm not saying like we like sign up for today.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
It should be when the things in your ears. It's like a warm, like. With authority.
What are you doing?
It's like
Hi, how are you guys? Sorry, I was on a phone call. Good. How are you guys?
Did you watch the campus from here? Did you watch the campus from here like consistently? Oh, good. That's it, yeah, that's a good workout right there. Yeah. I've gotten really into cycling. One of my favorite things. I'm running today, like bus. Yeah. Oh, I definitely could, but I have I don't like really into cycling, so I have like the pedals that like clip into those like shoes, and I don't want to like bring the other shoes in the backpack or something. Oh yeah. No, like.
And then recycling is you have something back.
All right, everyone. So now it's like 6:30 p.m. I do still see people like flowing into the room, so we're going to plan to start it here at 6:35 p.m. And if you just entered the room and haven't gotten pizza yet, please feel free to like make your way to the back of the room to like go grab that as well.
I had a phone call that told me I was on the first thing you ate today, so. That was the first thing you ate? Yeah, I need to start making, I bought a bunch of oats and do like, overnight oats, just like always have breakfast, but. Yeah, like 5:30. Yeah, that was tight. Yeah. I'm pretty bad about it.
On every other, you say to nine. At least you have time to eat of water.
Doing good. I got some
OMA, Office of Multicultural Affairs.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's actually They mentioned something about that? I'm sure they did, but. Oh, yeah.
30 minutes before.
First of all,
I thought that's been out for a minute. Oh, it looks like it must have been a minute before then. I thought it sounded like.
Oh, it's-
Went on.
Oh, it's live.
They're like, they always.
Sorry. I was like, oh, this is a video. I was like.
Put on my little shirt. They always. Oh, yeah. Like, I get it. Did you get the one? No, his dad kept being like, all about family values. It's like, you guys, you were never around. There's that.
one time there's,
He's running against Warnock, right? Yeah. Okay. What? Britain, the UK. Oh, Britain. Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're definitely grappling with the fact that they're the problem. They're not going to have fun for like because everyone's. I don't know. It's an outdated system. Like that. There were all the presidents after the Queen died. Saying like, hey, the monarchy needs to die. Not in like Britain, but in like places that were like occupied by British rule for the longest time. But also like the UK government. It's like we're gonna do it.
we're gonna do it. We're gonna get it. We're gonna expand everything's gonna buy.
We're expanded.
Everything up. You have maker space, whatever.
One that you see, Russia did those like strategic attacks on that one pipeline.
Yeah, public.
Yeah, so now,
Look at.
energy prices in Europe are about to skyrocket.
Yeah, they cut off the now they end like, I guess, between of those areas.
Oh, yeah.
Now, like,
When you think about that, it's kind of crazy. Have you seen like the, like, Putin's there was an armored train car that was carrying like nuclear warheads. Yeah, which like it's probably just a show. They haven't been doing the like the that they normally.
This could involve the work.
I mean, I don't know. Putin is like unhinged. It's like you think that like you can't.
All right, everyone, it's now 6:36. And so I am looking to call this session into order. Do I see a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting? I see a motion from Lena. Do I see a second? A second from Abdullah? All right, is there anyone who objects to approving the minutes of our last meeting? All right, we will now move to a vote. Nathaniel, if you can get that into the Students Assembly channel here. A reminder that this will count as our first attendance vote for this meeting. All right, and that poll just went out to the channel here. Do you approve the minutes? Yes, if you'd like to approve the minutes. No, if you absolutely disagree with the minutes, and abstain if you would like to stay out of this discussion. And I'll let that run for about a minute and a half here. Our quorum is 22, so we're already about to speed past that here.
Alex Liddell, please come to the front. Alex. Yeah.
Which one?
It's supposed to be just all.
Yeah.
All right, is there anyone else who hasn't voted in this matter that has the ability to do so? Going once, going twice. I'm not seeing any changes, so I'm going to move to close this vote. And with a vote of 30 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right. And with that, we will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our guest speaker, the KU Master Plan team, who is going to be giving us updates on the KU Master Plan. And so if you can go ahead and make your way to the podium, you'll have 20 minutes for your presentation here.
Hey, good evening, guys. We did this presentation for town hall today, and I will tell you, we didn't have this many people at the town hall, and we greatly appreciate it. I'm Mark Reisky. I'm the university architect at KU. We are really excited about being here tonight. It is difficult for a team like this to engage this large of a group of students at one function. I'll go over a couple of things very briefly because I don't want to take away time from the actual team that will be doing the presentation. So we started this process in 2021 to hire a consultant. The reasons we're doing it, we're doing this to align with our strategic plan, Jayhawk Rising. We're doing this to right size campus. We're doing this to basically provide better resources for our mission critical items, academics, research. We're doing it for our students. We're doing it for our faculty and staff. So everything you're going to see today isn't a normal master plan and won't lead to a normal master plan. It's not about building new. It's about getting everything right, coming out of a pandemic and with changes that are happening in higher ed. So the team you'll see today from Perkins and Will and Multi Studio out of Lawrence will explain where we're at today and where we're going to briefly. At the end of our presentation, because we have a limited amount of time, because we know you have a lot to do. This team will be out in the corridor. We will answer questions if people have questions outside of this meeting. We'll try to answer everything you have. We stayed at the last meeting an hour and a half-ish answering questions, and we'll do the same tonight if there's questions to be answered. So I've taken enough time. I'm not nearly as entertaining as they are. So once again, thanks so much. And we really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you all for allowing us to participate in this conversation today. And as Mark mentioned, this is the beginning of a conversation. And we're in the early stages of the master plan. And what we wanted to share with you today is where we are in the process. What is our engagement plan? Because this is the beginning of many conversations we want to have. But the underlying theme or the underlying mandate for us is that for this to be truly an inclusive master plan, it must have an inclusive process. And so we are really appreciating all of the time, but also looking forward to many of the engagement opportunities we will have and really request for your participation. So very quickly, talking about from an approach standpoint, and as Mark talked about, the strategic plan. This is a cornerstone for how we want to build from the master plan. And how are we going to start to think about the various themes and the priorities and the objectives outlined in the strategic plan, and how the master plan can start to embody many of those objectives, looking at student success, thriving communities, and also research and discovery. And so what are the transformational aspects that we need to do for the campus to achieve many of these goals and objectives? We also think that this is an amazing opportunity for us and a great time for us to be having this conversation about reimagining the master plan and what is a 21st century research campus about. You're all aware of many of the changes going on in higher education. Student expectations are driving change at an accelerated rate that we cannot comprehend as well. So how do we start to think about aligning from a pedagogy standpoint, from an expectation standpoint of where do we want to be as a 21st century campus? How do we engage with each other? How do we start to think about us as a sense of community? So what are the spaces that we need? And what are the different ways the master plan can support creating that sense of community? Supporting the mission, the strategic plan itself. How can we start to continue to let this be a way of implementation of that strategic plan? And the human experience. Now, this has really come to the forefront of everything that we've gone over the last few years. So how do we start to really address critical elements of equity, inclusivity as part of this master plan? So having these conversations are very important for us to embed those aspects as part of the master plan. We do not have any preconceived ideas on what the master plan should be, should look like, and what it should include. We believe that this process of engagement, the data analytics of how we look at all aspects of the campus is going to help us really craft this master plan together. It is not something that we will do this by ourselves, but it's something that we will hopefully are co-authoring all together with all of your input. So 3 critical themes are important for us and lenses for us to look through. Research is the data-driven process. We've got pages and pages and lines of data about trying to understand from a quantitative aspect how the campus is. But the conversations like this help us understand from a qualitative aspect. Really thinking from a resiliency standpoint, climate change, but also for us to be able to adapt to what are all the changes that are happening. So thinking about the infrastructure of the future, how can we be able to absorb many of those changes and be resilient? And inclusion, about really creating an engagement process that is around inclusivity. And so we've really driven this master plan from asking questions and letting that drive us to where we want to be. So thinking about what is the research campus of the future. The Lawrence campus itself is over 1,000 acres, over 186 buildings, 10.5 million square feet, and many other metrics as well that we've highlighted here. Powerful is the 28,000 community that we serve just within the Lawrence community itself. So when we think about how we craft this master plan, it's not just about looking at the buildings, but looking at the entire campus experience. How can the entire campus be a living, learning lab that really embodies what the education environment needs to be about, and really caters to not just the community of KU, but also the edges? How do we engage with the city, with the community, and what are those edge conditions like? You heard Mark talk about right sizing. How do we right size our resources? But this is more about really thinking about how we align with pedagogy and mission as well. And that's very critical from a technology standpoint, but also from the way the academic programs are being delivered. How do we want to think about the future? How do you all experience that? And how do we want to change many of the traditional ways to make that academic experience far more richer? So things that we look at is all of the different uses. It's not just the academic buildings. We're looking at administration buildings, student life and residential. We're looking at dining, recreation, athletic, many of the civic buildings as well, many of the supporting infrastructure for parking, circulation systems, multimodal, looking at enrollment patterns for the future and trying to think about how we are flexible to meet those needs, and look at the footprint we have. How can we be more sustainable as we think about growth itself and be as nimble through many of those aspects too. I won't go through all of these different graphs, but this is a sampling of sort of what are the types of data that we collect and how we analyze all of the spaces, and we understand how the utilization is. How do we advance the campus on a culture of transparency and tradition? We have a campus of rich in history and legacy, but we want to make sure that we have a comprehensive view of the entire campus, connecting from north, central to west district. Really not just thinking about how we come to the campus, but also how do we improve the connectivity systems? How is the gateways? What is that arrival experience like? How are we engaging with the community along all of our edges as well? And ultimately also capturing the spirit of KU. That's what makes it unique. And how can the campus build and reflect that diversity, that culture, the spirit that really makes this a unique campus, and reasons for all that you all are here and have chosen to be here as well. How can this campus start to reflect more of that, and how do we continue to grow and build on those traditions and culture? Ultimately, what we hope to do is deliver a master plan that is not a static document, that is not going to be a report that is prescriptive about buildings and projects, but something that's dynamic, that can really pivot based on changes, but ultimately is one that's going to thread the silos of mission, facilities, and really in the financial sustainability. We want to make sure that we can implement this master plan. So the financial resiliency is very, very critical to make sure that we are looking at all three lenses as well as part of this master plan. And with that, I want to request Bashak to sort of walk you through our process and really do a little more deeper dive on our engagement plan with all of you.
Thank you, Gautam. My name is Bashak Alkan. I'm a senior urban designer at Perkins & Will, and I'm the project manager for the consultant team. And there are two of us here, but I want to acknowledge there's a large number of folks who work with us. We have consultants who focus on different aspects of the master plan, such as everything from mechanical systems, believe it or not, which is so important on this campus because sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, not the right temperature at all times, and IT, we have IT consultants. So we have a large team working for you for this master plan, and we're also working very closely with the facilities planning and department, facilities and planning department. You've met Mark and some of his colleagues there are in the back with us, and they've been kind of taking us along the way. We've been meeting weekly since June to make sure that we understand the campus, we get to the level of knowledge to be able to execute this master plan for you. But also we have been talking to a steering committee. So an executive committee and a steering committee have been identified, and those are the kind of organizational structures of the master plan below which the stakeholder engagement occurs. And we were going to take the stakeholder engagement through all of these 4 phases of master planning, everything from discovery and engagement, which is where we kind of are today. We've gotten a lot of data and we've gotten a lot of analysis, but we're still talking to people, and we'll continue to talk to people and get information through the end of the fall. And we'll analyze the campus, we'll pull together the qualitative and quantitative together to come up with ideas and scenarios. And through the conversations we have when we come back, we begin to narrow those scenarios to a shared vision of where the campus wants to be in the 10, 20, perhaps even 50-year horizon. Everything from infrastructure to buildings to open spaces. And a lot of these kind of convergence of ideas happens through the stakeholder engagement. So that's why I'm going to talk through a little bit of what we do at each stage. So here are just some visuals. We've toured the campus. We've done 2 surveys, faculty and staff surveys. The student survey has not gone out yet, but I want to just put in a word for the survey that's going to come out tomorrow. So we're going to send that out. Please talk to your friends, make sure everyone takes it. It's a really fun survey. And you'll see that in a little bit too. We've been doing a lot of analysis. These are just some of the graphics that we're working on and pulling together. Scenarios will look something like this. We'll talk about where new buildings go, old buildings go away. Perhaps some of the green spaces get reconfigured on there and the infrastructure gets improved. And then finally, we'll end up with a master plan document and some renderings that begin to communicate the ideas of where the campus wants to be because if we can't identify where we want to go, we won't be able to get there. So very quickly, why do we do stakeholder engagement? Because even though we are experts of the design of the built environment, we've never walked the campus in your shoes. In a nutshell, that's it. We want to understand what it is to be a student on campus, what it is to be a faculty member or a staff member on campus. And I've talked about the different ways that we engage the faculty and the staff. I'm going to just skip to the student engagement part because it's fairly important for you. We've talked to a lot of leaders. We have the student survey coming up. It's going to take about 15-20 minutes. It's online. You can do it on your phone or on a computer. It's a little easier to do it on the computer because there are some mapping components that are fun to play with. We will ask for basic demographic data so we can begin to identify and analyze some of the results we get. It's entirely anonymous, but there will be prizes. So if you put your email at the end, the consultant team will randomly select winners for those items. We'll ask about how you go about doing your daily business on campus. What are your favorite spaces? What are spaces you want to change? Where are areas where there are accessibility concerns and safety concerns, etc. It's going to be hopefully a great way to engage as many people as we can, and we'll continue to talk to students even after the survey is closed in about 3 weeks' time. This is kind of a little bit of what it looks like with another campus where we've done this exercise. You'll be able to map your daily paths of how you walk around the campus to give us an understanding of some of those cut-throughs that might perhaps better be paved paths. And this information, I can't stress this enough, is extremely important for us to get right. And we have been, have this meeting. We would like to come back to you and present to you along the way. We're also meeting with different student groups along the way as well, specifically focusing on DEIB. And that's one of the objectives of the strategic plan. We're going to carry that through the master plan, understand how we can make sure that everybody feels like they belong on the campus in the physical facilities. And there are some efforts underway to use the master plan as a teaching tool. So it is being taught. Some of the aspects of it are being taught in classes. Town halls, those bring both faculty, staff, and students together, open to everybody. We had one earlier today, and we will continue to do those and give an opportunity for folks who don't want to necessarily do the surveys or who don't want to necessarily get, give information through online means to be face-to-face with us. Finally, we're taking some subject matter experts across the university. These are by invitation only, but that doesn't mean they're exclusive. Everybody is invited to talk about key aspects of what KU needs to get right to be financially sustainable for the long term, so that all the things you love about the campus will be here in the same way for other students to come in the future. Now with that, I want to open for any questions that you might have.
All right, first of all, let's give a round of applause to our guest speakers. Thank you so much for bringing that. All right, and question from Camden.
Thank you for your presentation. That was fascinating. So I noticed that, we're pretty early here in the this master plan phase. From your perspective, preliminarily, what do you all feel is the biggest challenge for the University of Kansas that you hope to address with this initiative?
That's a great question. I think we're going to learn through this process. And I think how are we going to understand academic and research is going to be very critical. Not saying that's an issue, but how do we going to make sure we understand the collaborations, understand the academic research of not today, but of 5 years from now, 10 years from now. That's one. I think that's going to be very important to have a growing conversation around that. The second is, there's great pride and legacy about the campus environment itself. And so while there are many aspects about what that makes it memorable, we also want to think about how are we continuing to build on that legacy as a forward-looking campus. So thinking about aspects of accessibility, that's an important challenge, make the campus as accessible as possible. To find ways to celebrate the diversity and the culture and equity, inclusive spaces. While we have great historic buildings, they also have to adapt to the times we are in right now of access, of modernizing them. And so there's a significant emphasis on looking at the conditions of the buildings as well. So what I'm trying to get to is, I'm not saying that there is one or two issues. We have to look at them in multiple layers. We have to understand how the buildings are currently, what the conditions are, but most importantly, how they're serving your functions. How are we starting to think about the academic program, the academic experience of the future and plan for that? And the student experience, that's going to be the key driver for all of this. So understanding student expectations as they're driving change. Health and wellness is a big conversation, thinking about equity. So how do you start to embody those elements into the master plan are also going to be all critical. Connectivity is going to be another key part of how do we connect all through the districts too. Yeah.
And I want to just emphasize, I think those are very good points. I want to emphasize that KU has a mandate for growth through the strategic plan. And that's going to be a challenge given not a KU-based challenge, but higher education in general is seeing a decline in the number of students who are coming through high schools. And to be able to grow enrollment and make sure more people can get to KU, we need to think about the campus. What attracts people here? What keeps people here? How can we make sure that everyone who gets here graduates? And to ensure all of those things to happen, what kind of facilities we need. So that I think is going to be the biggest challenge, is trying to make sure that we meet those growth goals through the investments that the campus is willing to take.
I understand. So do you mind if I get up?
Any other questions in the room? Vander, do you mind?
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
We'll be outside.
No, it's fine.
We'll be
Like I
here
said,
as long as you
It's more important to hear from other people. Vander, would you like me to throw it to you?
I can speak.
Okay.
I have a lot of things. My question is, do you have any plan to introduce the one that we have, which is a great plan that we have, to different languages? Because we have international students, they become the first time, they don't understand English very well. So how can we include them in this plan by introducing some languages that we have based on the population of the students here?
It's a great question, and I think that's a great direction for us as well, to think about how we can share information and in multiple languages. So absolutely, we should look at that and focus on that too.
All right, Lena?
Thank you for bringing that.
Yeah, so thank you again for your presentation. So I think the presentation was very clear in terms of the vision that you guys have, in terms of kind of the abstract ideas that you want to foster and then maintain on the campus, like connectivity, inclusivity, and whatnot. I think something that was unclear a bit for me was, what are the concrete actions that are going to be taken? Because it's a little bit unclear, like, are buildings going to be removed and paths going to be made, or what concretely are we going to be seeing on the campus?
Absolutely. So what a master plan likes to do is stay at that 30,000 foot level, because we're looking at a large area. We're not going to go down all the way to the room level, but we're going to be investigating, first of all, what we would call frameworks. The circulation framework. How does it work today? How do people move around today? How should they move around in the future? And for that to happen more efficiently, what roads need to be readjusted, realigned, if that's the solution we arrive at. We're going to look at an open space network. How do people use the outdoor spaces? Are there places for respite? And how can we preserve what is there and then improve what needs to come? So those frameworks will really begin to create the sense of place of that future campus. And within that will be specific projects that are identified. Same thing with space. What we call space is basically every single room in all the buildings across campus. We're analyzing all of that data to make sure how we can align it a little better with what is trying to be done today educationally. And that might mean we might recommend certain buildings that are not functional for 21st century education to go away. Of course, if they don't have historic value, that is certainly a criteria on this campus. But we might also recommend that certain programs, for example, that are fragmented to be brought together in a new building. So those kinds of solutions are not things that we currently have today, but as we come back to present to you, you'll see us first presenting the frameworks, some of the big ideas, and then we'll really begin to narrow down to the specific projects. And those projects get carried forward and then presented to the higher ups for consideration for funding.
Thank you so much.
All right, any other questions? Camden, would you like to go ahead and ask
Did you want to ask a follow-up question?
No, I'm good.
All right, any other questions, Turner? Can we get like a mic over, just so we can make sure the stream is still clear?
Ready?
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I know it's very early in the process, so I'm not gonna ask a super detailed question, but where are you guys at with like thinking of funding, like thinking of how much this type of plan costs? I'm not sure if you guys have done master plans before, but like, what is the initial thoughts on how much money we want to spend? How much, I don't know, just very broad, I guess. Have you guys thought about that? I'm sure you have, but.
I would say it comes up in every master plan that we worked on, the cost. But I would like to reframe that a little differently. While we are very early, we don't know what the projects are going to be. So it's very, early to even comment on from a cost standpoint. But I think the important question that we are trying to understand is how do we align the resources we have to be focused on the transformative change that we want to do. And so thinking about the frameworks as Bashak described is also starting to think about from a strategic planning standpoint, what are the priorities also that we need to do? And let those priorities and that framework drive decision-making versus letting the cost drive what we can afford to do, right? So let's let the framework and that, so what I'm trying to get to is that the priorities are driven by purpose, but not financial. And that's not just us speaking, this is speaking from the leadership standpoint as well. So hence, let's listen, let's understand first, let's do our research and our discovery, let that drive it, and we'll come back to the cost. The other aspect is, and Mark and team are really pushing us as well to be really thoughtful about it, is to, it's always easy to say, we need more space, let's put a new building. And that's just going to burden more money and cost. What we really need to do is to rethink about the way we use our resources. The most sustainable idea is actually not building more, right? So let's start with how are we using the spaces we have, not just buildings, but outdoor spaces. And let's start to think about how we improve many of those. So this master plan is going to focus more on those aspects as well, and really try to let purpose drive priorities.
Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions? Farzad? And Turner, can you get that one over? Thank you.
What's the timeline on your oncoming reports?
Sure. So our goal is, like, as Bashak described in the overall, those 4 steps, we're in the early phase, but our goal is to complete the master plan by spring 2023.
Sweet. That's all.
All right. Any other questions on the floor here? Going once. All right. Well, then thank you all very much for coming.
Thank
We really
you for the
appreciate it.
opportunity. And if any ideas come through your meetings through the fall into the spring about the master plan, what it can do, reach out to us. We're accessible, we're available. I'll leave my email address.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you said you'd be out in the hallway for a bit
We will.
after here. About how long would you say?
Flexible.
Flexible. All right. So yeah, if anyone has any other questions that come up, I suppose within the next 10 to 20 minutes, feel free to step out and ask those as you wish. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Right. And with that, we will go ahead and transition into the next part of our meeting here. Sam is getting the agenda back up. But we'll be heading into officer reports.
What's going on?
They switched to HDMI.
He works with image change.
All right. I could call us back into order here. All right, we will be starting with our first officer report, which comes from our student body president, Sadie Williams. Is Sadie here yet?
Not yet.
Or-
7:30.
All right, Riley Moreland, I believe, was giving officer report in the stead. Yeah. Yeah, can you just come up to the podium here? Feel free to use that, or feel free to just hold the catch box. And then you'll have like a minute 30, but no problems.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, sweet. From Sadie Williams, I'm gonna try to do this justice, but hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm not there to give the officer report, but I'm confident Riley will do me justice in my absence. I will be here tonight just a little late due to an appointment back home. I have a few big things. First, you'll be hearing a bill from me toward the end of this evening regarding advisory boards. This is amended from the first cycle. Second, I will be showing an announcement I am wanting to be sent to campus regarding different ways to be involved in Senate, in addition to general information / resources. Third, Student Senate helps every year with voter registration and participation in initiatives. As elected representatives of our campus, I know all of you can appreciate the importance of participating in democracy. I sent an email and Teams message yesterday with a volunteer sign up, and we'll send it again after Senate tonight. Please strongly consider signing up for even just one shift. It is so important. Lastly, please email me tonight if you are interested in representing KU on a trip to DC next Friday for a student governance event held by the Vice President Kamala Harris. You would need to finance it yourself, and we can send a maximum of 2 representatives. However, the programming has been prepared by the White House staffers in advance. Let me know if you have any questions or ever you just want to grab coffee. See you all in like 20 minutes.
All right, thank you. All right, probably not going to do questions for that one here. So feel the big chair. All right. Next part of the agenda here that we're going to move forward to is my officer report here. Sam, here's my timer. All right, so start off, student senators will be receiving assignments to research student fees in the next few weeks. If you haven't had the chance to fill out the survey that was sent out in the first cycle by our policy director, Angela Davis, please do so by 5 p.m. this Friday so that we have preference information. The Student Senate had its first batch of finalized bills listed on the website, and last cycle's resolution was transmitted to the listed parties by the IA director last week. And post-absent student senator removal at Studex last week, all student councils were able to meet quorum and resolve business. In a sense, we're starting to get a legislative system that's getting back into the rhythm of things. And now we're going to be pivoting from like the structure of our legislative system more towards like legislative involvement from you all and other students. I met with Nick Jugman, the new general manager for the UDK, in my capacity as the Student Senate rep on that advisory board to discuss the future relationship between Senate and the UDK. Things are looking good, and we're aiming to start to rebuild that institutional link between student governance and student journalism. At the end of the day, we're all working to keep student involvement up in both of these areas. You will be seeing University Senate move forward with a resolution on shared governance. As of right now, we're assessing the needs of different parts of university governance that should be addressed in the plan. Students, however, are strongly in favor of moderated communication, but not inhibited communication, with our student constituents being included in this plan. Also, University Senate appointments have been made and sent to Suzanne Scales in University Governance this week. There are still some vacancies, one on academic policy and procedures, 4 undergrad seats. Oh. Right. Could I get a time extension, just like 1 minute?
Motion for Zod, second Villa.
Aye.
Motion to extend by 1 minute. Okay, any objections? Awesome, we're gonna go ahead.
All right. And yeah, 4 vacant undergraduate seats on the University Judicial Board, 2 seats on the Parking Commission, and there are some grad vacancies, but I'll let Holly address that in her officer report. Finally, I'll be looking to reconnect student governance at the dean level here, with many of the colleges giving Student Senate and its senators more access to solutions at the campus level for student issues by school or college. I'll be working on like a presentation to provide to the provost office in upcoming meetings, and we're keen on like addressing access to university leadership at all levels there. This is on top of the great work that our chief of staff and IA director are doing for Student Senate outreach to reconnect us with our university after COVID. The replacement senator form has been sent out to like multiple deans, especially for constituencies that are lacking senators. So feel free to share that out too as well. Finally here, we will be moving towards project management as we head into October and November. Each exec staff member is going to be receiving a semester project to complete and report back on to the Students' Assembly. This is just to make sure that we can really hit on like the platforms that we ran on this past spring and work to expand that in Student Senate. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah. Yes. Good call.
Okay, so this week.
Sorry.
Um,
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's Holly.
not bad. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you started pulling it. I just went with it. All right, ready to go, Holly?
Yeah.
All right.
So last week and this week, last week we had the Graduate Student Advisory Board meeting with the provost. We talked about the issues of reparations with the Indigenous community. We also talked about graduate student engagement on campus. It's really low right now. So I have a meeting next week after fall break with Dr. Roberts and Dr. Durham to kind of like talk about how to get graduate students involved more. But the Graduate Student Advisory Board did meet today, and so I got some good ideas from them. And I've also really been working on a resolution in regards to everything that's going on in Iran right now. Fabiana and I met with the Iranian students that are part of the Iranian Student and Community Association this past weekend, and they currently have the resolution and are kind of like looking over it and seeing what they think about it and giving us their feedback, and that will be sent to Sam on Friday before 5, because I know that's when that has to be in. I did get graduate students appointed to the university Senate committees, and I did kind of steal that one APMP space left because a graduate student really wanted it and it didn't specify if it was undergrad or grad. But I'm really looking at ways to try and get graduate students involved in Senate. So if you have any that you know that want to be involved, please get them to come to me.
All right. Anything else, Holly?
That's it.
All right. Any questions for Holly? All right. Seeing none. Thank you so much, Holly. All right. Now you'll hear from Sam.
Cool. Okay. This week past couple weeks, I've been working on freshman Senate elections. So getting those set up. The deadline for filing is October 13th. The Elections Commission still has yet to meet in person. They've been liaisoning with me and Jennifer Sprague through emails, but hopefully we'll get that set up. If you know any freshmen, please have them go to Rock Chalk Central. And then the bottom right, they'll be submitting your candidacy form. We've already gotten a few responses. We'd love to have as many people as possible. I'm also trying to set up tabling at Daisy Hill. They haven't gotten back to me yet, but if not, I'll just kind of do my own guerrilla tabling organization outside. So if anybody would like to join me on that, feel free. Also, yeah, replacement senator applications. We got a few more. I'll be doing that tonight. Just checking up on the staff. Everybody's doing their jobs. So we're doing so far. I'll let you know if they aren't. But yes, and then also I'm working on part of the mega projects that Alessio was referring to. I am reformatting the whole KU Student Senate Constitution, so that will be a ball. So yeah. That's all.
Any questions for Sam? I thought not, just checking in. All right. Now let's move on to our treasurer, Turner Seals.
Hey, everybody. Not a whole lot going on in my office right now. Next week, I should be able to give you values for like the unallocated account and the reserve account. Right now, we've had some troubles getting certain numbers put into our system. So that's kind of been a pain, and I haven't been able to tell you like how much we're able to spend, but I should have those values next week. Just letting you guys know. We have a few bills going through tonight to fund some organizations, so that is always exciting. So if you guys have or are a part of any organizations that need funding, shoot me an email. We can get you guys some funding for events or whatever. We're gonna fund this thing called Solar House. So it's like $5,000 to build a solar focused house. It's for the architecture department. That's pretty cool. So if anyone wants to learn anything more about that, you can email me. But that's all I got. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Turner? All right, seeing none.
Cool.
Thank you very much, Turner.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and next we have an officer report from our Public Relations Director, Riley Stowers.
Hi, the main thing is I'm just doing finishing touches on the website that's already been worked so hard on. And just kind of making things more intuitive. And I know before senators, you guys were always on the website listed, but now you guys are in a different place and hopefully more accessible if you want to try and find yourselves. And yeah, getting our exec headshots and everything on there. That's my main thing. So just check out the website, and it's still work in progress, but we're finalizing everything this week.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you very much, Riley. All right, and Zachariah was unfortunately unable to be with us tonight, but his report kind of got touched on in Turner's report as well. So we now will just move forward to a vote on the consent agenda. Unless, do you want to bring up the acclamation of like new and replacement senators now?
I will need a motion to suspend the Constitution order for that.
All right. Do we have a motion to suspend the Constitution to acclimate all of the replacement senators who applied by like Wednesday here? All right, I see a motion from Abdullah. Do I see a second? Second from Evan. All right. And anyone who is objecting to this motion? All right, seeing none, I would imagine that counts for 2/3. All right, so if you want to go ahead and present the new replacement senators, Sam. And then we'll count them into our new quorum once we have them in the room.
All right. Okay, so could I get Riley Oswald to raise your hand? There we go. Okay, you are applying for College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, freshman, sophomore, correct? Awesome. Okay. Anna Wallen, are you here? Anna.
Oh,
Anna's
back there.
Okay, would you like to be off campus? Go for that, or College of Liberal Arts and Sciences? We can do that. All right.
Is that junior or senior?
Senior, got it.
All right.
Patrick Whalen. We have Patrick here. He's gonna do freshman senate, I think. Okay. Alex Liddell. Oh, yes, you're here. Okay, I need to officially acclimate you through this process, but Skull Halls, correct? Awesome. Okay. Brendan Phelan, are you here? Brendan? Okay. Okay. Is that all right if we acclimate them nonetheless, or should we wait? Alessia, that's up to you.
Generally, are they expecting to come to like the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, then yeah, let's just go ahead and acclimate them with the knowledge in mind that it's in a very unfilled constituency there.
Cool. Yep. And Kaya Claytor. Is Kaya here? Awesome. Hi, I'm so sorry. What would you like to, your College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, correct? Okay, awesome. All right, junior, senior, or freshman, sophomore? Got it. Okay. Great. Could I get a motion then to acclimate Riley Oswald, Anna Wallen, Alex Liddell, Brendan, and cool, awesome. It's fine. What's their college though? You know that.
Well, are they here? I guess I would preface. Okay.
We do have an off-campus vacancy.
Yeah.
Yes, that would work. Cool. Could I get your name again?
Carolyn.
Cool. All right, in that case, could I get a motion to acclimate all these senators? All right, got that. Second from Riley. Okay,
All right.
it's your job, I guess.
Yeah. Doing fabulously. All right. Who are the motions from?
Oh, it was Holly and
Holly
Riley.
and Riley. Perfect. All right. And any objection to this? All right. Seeing none, congratulations, y'all. You are officially acclimated. Oh. All
I have one
right,
more. Sorry, it wasn't on my list. Mr. Alexander Irwin.
Alexander Irwin.
Mr. Yes. Cool. And then you are a College of the Arts and Sciences junior senior. Sorry, could we just add Alex to that motion? Could I get a
Can I get a motion?
motion to Lena?
Lena.
Second, So.
Second back here from Trey. All right. Any objections? Seeing none, congratulations, Alex, you are acclimated. Right. Can you go ahead and pull up the Senate website as well? Just so I can. Yes, well, ostensibly, like, if you join the teams right now, that's what I was like pulling up here. So if you go to the Student Senate website now as a new senator and scroll down here, you'll see a link there to join the Student Senate team on Microsoft Teams. So if you can just download the Microsoft Teams app on your phone and then sign into that, I can go ahead and add people with immediacy here. All right. Other than that, I think we're good here.
I'm gonna go to,
Yeah, we will move forward to the consent agenda, and when people are figuring out voting, we'll just figure that out. All right, is there any objection to any of the items on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion from Holly. Do I see a second? I see a second from Yegun. All right, and so now that's been properly moved and seconded, do we have any objections to moving forward with an official vote on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and have that vote posted in the Students Assembly channel here. The cycle 3 consent agenda. All right, the vote is now officially up here, so please vote yay if you would like to approve this cycle 3 consent agenda, vote no if you would like to not approve it, and abstain if you would like to stay out of the discussion. All right, you've now hit quorum. I'm gonna go ahead and let it still sit for about another minute here as votes roll in. All right, is there anyone who hasn't voted on this legislation that has the ability to do so? All right. Seeing no objections, I'm going to move to close this vote here. All right. And if I could get order in the chamber here. If the conversation could stop. Sorry. All right. And with a vote of 31 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right. And do I see a motion to amend the agenda from Chris here? All right. Do you want to grab a catch box here?
Thank you very much. All right, so I move to amend the regular agenda to consider resolution 2023-300 after the Elections Commission confirmation. That resolution was considered at finance during cycle 2, social justice during cycle 3, and I guess it just fell through the cracks.
Certainly did. All right. Do I see a second? All right. Second from Lena. All right. Anyone who objects to adding that resolution to tonight's agenda? It's the e-scooter resolution. Yeah, we didn't consider it StudX because it cross cycles. Yeah, the amendment is in. All right. Anything else? No objections? All right, then we will go ahead and add that onto the agenda here. Right. Oh, and then did I see a motion from over here? Yeah. Could we get a catch box over? Thank you, Lena. Oh.
I would like to motion to enter committee of the whole to with Senate Resolution 2023-302, which is, I believe, the next one.
Okay, yeah, we'll code it after the fact, but what's your intention of going into committee of the whole?
This resolution is time sensitive with the recent findings of Indigenous remains on campus.
All right, do I see a second? All right, a second for me again. Is there anyone who objects to moving into committee of the whole now that it's been properly moved and seconded? All right, seeing none, we are now in committee of the whole. All right, so if you want to come up and present the legislation here. And I'll go ahead and, you sent it to the email, correct? All right. All right, that legislation should have just popped up on the Teams there, so here, let me. Here you go. All right, that resolution is on the Students Assembly channel of the Teams for those who cannot see it like clearly up here. Does it need to be like enlarged for anyone here in the back maybe, or looking good? All right, could we do like a bit of a zoom?
Do you know how to do that? How do you do that?
Let's see, I think it would be at the bottom there, that little zoom icon. It's kind of being blocked by the text right there. Right there.
Yep. It's blocked, it's behind there.
We all stop speaking. Okay, it's right.
Is that better? More?
All right, awesome. Okay, so you can go ahead and present this resolution and then we'll consider it as a committee of the whole.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Hudson. I'm an off-campus senator, and I'm also a history student here at KU. The resolution that I'm going to present today is a resolution that combines both language from an Indigenous Studies, from the Indigenous Studies Department on campus and from working with Indigenous students on campus through specifically the First Nations Student Association. This resolution is very time sensitive, just based on the fact that we do not want the university to let this go to the side. And this is a very critical time to remind them of what is going on their campus. So I'll go ahead and just really quickly read through the resolution. So this is a resolution to ensure adequate representation and support of the Indigenous students, staff, faculty, and administrators in and around the University of Kansas. Whereas the preamble of the Student Senate Rules and Regulations states, the Student Senate shall ensure that the learning opportunities at KU are open to all students without exception. This includes, but is not limited to, race, religion, sex, gender identity and expression, color, disability, national origin, ancestry, sexual orientation, political affiliation, marital or parental status, socioeconomic status, and to the extent specified by law, age or veteran status. And whereas the Indigenous community has members who find themselves as students, faculty, staff, and administrators on the KU campus. And whereas the land that the University of Kansas sits on belongs to the Kansa, Osage, and the Kickapoo Indigenous tribes. And whereas the Indigenous community has historically had their voices cut off in the governmental sphere due to unjust discrimination. And whereas the University of Kansas has failed the Indigenous community in the way that they run the campus and seek out ways to answer minority discriminations, shown by their unbalanced focus on other minorities with a lack of focus on the Indigenous community. And whereas the University of Kansas recently announced their failure to repatriate 202 Native ancestral remains located in the same building where the Indigenous Studies Program offices are held, Lippincott Hall, one South American ancestral remain located in Fraser Hall, and 2 Native and 1 Aboriginal ancestral remains located in Spooner Hall. And whereas the Indigenous Studies Program authored a letter in partnership with the Indigenous community on campus that explains their concerns and recommendations as follows. A full explanation as to why the ancestral remains were held in the same space as the Indigenous Studies Program without our knowledge. Immediately put adequate signage up to warn students from entering the buildings in which the remains are held. The university administration should hold a public press conference to apologize to all enrolled Indigenous students, as well as alumni, for not disclosing details of Native American ancestors being housed in Lippincott, the former home of the Indigenous Studies Program. The Indigenous Studies Program should have a new dedicated office space for faculty and students along a major section of campus. The university should regularly update the campus community via an online platform about the status of repatriating the remains of Native American and Indigenous peoples. Close the university for a day or longer, except for work and gathering related to the ancestors. Classes canceled and buildings closed. All the focus must be on the ancestors. For those outside our community, this would be similar to a moment of silence and an opportunity for learning. For the Indigenous community, this will give time for a ceremony. Return all potential data collected from these ancestors to families and tribal leadership. The university must provide dedicated indigenized spaces across campus to allow Indigenous students to feel welcome and safe. The university must establish the Indigenous Studies Program as a fully functioning department, therefore becoming the Indigenous Studies Department. The university should fully fund multiple GA, GTA, GRA positions within the Indigenous Studies Program. All incoming Indigenous students should receive full scholarships within their desired program. The university should make every effort possible to hire more permanent Indigenous mental health counselors, staff, and faculty within all undergraduate and graduate programs. An annual mandatory training like the DEI and sexual harassment trainings for all non-Native students to educate about the specific histories of Indigenous disposition and removal on KU-owned lands and in Lawrence. the university should fully financially support tuition and fees for Indigenous students to learn their languages at other institutions and receive course credit for this work. Ongoing conversation between ISP students and provost or chancellor about KU's commitment to those demands. Whereas the KU Student Senate seeks to support the wishes of the Indigenous communities on campus and express a desire to see KU Chancellor Doug Gerard and the KU Provost Barbara Bittelmeyer follow through with the requests and concerns stated above by the Indigenous Studies Department and the Indigenous communities on campus. And whereas this should not be seen as a goal to reach for, but a basic list of equal justices that is deserved by the Indigenous communities on campus. Therefore, be it resolved by the University of Kansas Student Senate here assembled that a resolution to ensure adequate representation and support of the Indigenous students, staff, faculty, and administrators in and around the University of Kansas be enacted. Therefore, be it further resolved that this resolution be sent to the following entities: the KU Chancellor, Provost, the NAGPRA and Repatriation Media Contact, University Daily Kansan, and specifically all university students, faculty, staff, and administrators as a show of support for the Indigenous communities on and around KU campus. Lastly, I just want to just thank you for your time. I know this topic can be hard to talk about, but it's extremely important. The Indigenous communities really want to be heard, and now is a great time to support them. Thank you.
All right, thank you for presenting that resolution, Anthony. Now we will go on to questions. However, I want to ask, do we want to do questions and discussion in committee of the whole, or do we want to move into regular rules and discussion? Regular rules. Okay, so can I get a motion to move out of committee of the whole with the legislation? I see a motion from Holly and then I see a second from Farzad. All right, any objection to moving out of committee of the whole with this legislation? Oh, Chris, you object?
I want to stay with the discussion.
Stay with the discussion. All right, so there has been an objection made. Is the motion going to be withdrawn or shall we go to a formal vote?
I think that debate, if I may, the free-form discussion in committee of the whole is probably best suited in doing to it.
All right, motion has been withdrawn, and so I will now get down a question list here. So I see Lena here, and then I see Holly and Austin. So Lena, you can go ahead. Yes. Thank you so much.
Hi, so first of all, did you try and reach out to Native Americans on our campus when you were writing this bill to make sure that this is both culturally sensitive and appropriate to what they actually need?
Yes, so most of this language is actually from a letter sent out by the Indigenous Studies program. And I've also worked with the First Nation Student Association and Indigenous professors on campus to make sure that this is their language and what they would like to be heard.
Right, okay, can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, I'll let
Okay.
you do a follow-up since we're
Okay.
time restricted. Oh, and did Yegon,
So-
did you want after?
I do have a concern with the part, I don't know if we can scroll back up to it, where you mentioned fully financially supporting tuition for Native Americans to study at other universities because of this happening to Native Americans. So I understand the premise, right? The premise is because this happened to their ancestors and they might not want to go to those buildings, understandably. But logistically speaking, this is going to be a nightmare. I mean, then this is going to be setting precedent for any minority group. For instance, I'm Egyptian, and KU's museum had Egyptian art that happened to be stolen from Egypt. So should Egyptians on KU's campus also now, if this gets passed, that would set a kind of a dangerous precedent that any minority group on campus can claim, oh, because KU did X, then we can request full tuition to go to another university and study there, and it must be funded by Chancellor Gerard. So I'm just a little bit concerned with that aspect of this bill. I understand that your intentions are fully pure, and I get the need for this bill. There's just logistical and verbiage concerns that I don't know if I can get past unless you can explain it.
Yeah, right. That's a really, really great point. And there's three kind of answers to that. First and foremost, this is a resolution. Our hope is that these things will be followed through with. But you're right, there's going to, it is going to take some time, and it is going to take a lot of work in order to get there. So it's important to see that this is a resolution. Second off, I would say that it should be a challenge. And there should be a precedent set for minorities to be heard on this campus, even
Can the
if
university afford that? So.
it's not our problem. The problem is, what do these minorities deserve? And so, and the third thing that goes along with that is this language, specifically this whereas it was taken directly from the Indigenous Studies program letter. And I didn't want to change that because I don't feel like I have the right to change that. That kind of goes in with this being a resolution. And so.
All right. I was gonna say, was it, Lena, was it was it like number 14 here? Like in the letter?
Yeah, Roman numeral XIV.
Yeah. And so like from my understanding here, it seems like it's for like learning languages at other institutions and receiving like KU course credit.
Right, I
Okay.
completely understand, but just the fact that our university would financially support our
Yeah.
students to go and study at another university. With what?
Let's not have like cross back and forth here.
Right, but I just will address that point. That's not what, so I was actually a part of a language kind of exchange program that she's talking about. That's federally funded. It's not funded by individual universities.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I just wanted to get clarification there.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
This is open for the chancellor to get money from federally funded sources.
Right. Okay, so
yeah.
I need to also get some other, do I see Angela in the back? Oh yeah, a bill is something where we actually have like tangible action to take. So like a bill, like for example, to like fund a student organization, Student Senate within its own rules is like doing an action completely on its own. A resolution is more of like like a letter that is being sent by KU Student Senate to like address these issues. And so, yeah, just so everyone understands that. Thank you for bringing it up, Angela. And did I see a hand over here for question, Camden? All right, I'll go ahead and add you. But next here on the question order, I do have Holly. Perfect.
Can we scroll down to the bottom, just because for the asking for the resolution to go out to all university students, faculty, staff and administration, I think that's great because this is very important. But we don't have a means to do that. Like the university as a whole would have to do that. I don't necessarily, we've been in conversation trying to get that to happen so we can just email our constituents, AKA the students, and we still haven't gotten that. And there's a task force going on right now. So you might want to change that to have this sent out through university governance, and have Annie Kokobowo, the president, send it out that route, because I think that's the only way you would actually get that to happen, to get it to everybody. And then the other point, wait, what was my other point? Hold on. I had another point, which I can't remember. I'll come back for my other point that I can't remember.
All
I
right,
just wanted to bring that up to you. I'll get put on the list again, obviously. I mean,
Yeah, I'll get you there. And I will also just add, yeah, like when we send stuff through like the university governance listserv, it is moderated by now the Vice Chancellor for Strategic Communications. And so anything they don't want us to send out to the entire university, they usually don't send out.
I just
Holly?
remembered.
Yes.
My brain's a sieve. I'm so sorry. The other thing I wanted to mention, it was brought up to me, and I did bring this up to the provost last week when we discussed this. But some students, and I don't know if this has happened for staff and faculty that are impacted, and there is kind of a wording issue further up where I think we shouldn't just say for students, but for, staff and faculty too. But some Indigenous folk are having to go back to their communities and to participate in ritual in order to kind of like cleanse themselves from the fact that they've been in a building with ancestors they didn't know were there. And so we did ask if there was the ability for those students to be funded to go home, because oftentimes people from Indigenous communities are lower income students, and that's a really big burden to be put on them that it wasn't their fault to start with. And so I know that's not part of the letter, but I would consider maybe putting something to that extent in it to hold the university accountable for making sure that we're not putting even more of a financial burden onto our students, staff and faculty that they don't need to have.
All right, thank you for that, Holly. Next on the list here is Austin. Oh, question was answered, perf. Again? No, so we can hear on the stream here, because otherwise it won't catch for the transcription.
I'm a horrible catch. Hi, so Lena over here asked a question about like using the language of Indigenous people. I was just wondering, if like, first of all, I was wondering what the context of the letter was, and if you had consent to use the language of the letter. And then secondly, I was wondering if this is the voice of Indigenous people, why they aren't advocating for it. Not that you don't have any right to speak for it, but it seems like on the topic of Indigenous people, why isn't it an Indigenous person presenting it?
That's a great question. Yeah, so as far as the language, this isn't my computer. I have most of this language was taken specifically from that letter that I was talking about that was put together by Indigenous students to send to various places. And so yeah, I wish I could pull this up, but this is essentially copy and pasted from their language. As far as why is it not a Native student, I can't give a great answer other than that I feel strongly about this, and so I decided to bring it up in partnership with them. Yeah, that's why I'm up here. I'm a student senator, so I felt like it was my job to bring it up to the General Assembly.
Next on my list, I have Camden.
So Anthony, I wanted to make abundantly clear that I have no qualms with the general spirit of this letter, of this resolution, but I feel obligated to bring up a number of concerns that I have. Let's start in the whereas clause, where you call out an unbalanced focus on other minorities with a lack of focus on the Indigenous community. I don't really know if it's a great idea for the Student Senate to point at other minority groups and say that you have received too much attention, let's shift the spotlight. Frankly, I think that is an abhorrent way to look at this situation. And the only way I would consider voting for this is if that part were removed. My second question slash, I guess, comment and concern that maybe you can assuage is that what is a Student Senate demand for, a day off of classes for providing free tuition that could very well bankrupt the university that is already reeling from financial distress? How do you square the righteous indignation? I don't mean to say that there shouldn't be a feeling of frustration with how this was handled and the fact that there were remains on campus, but you also have to operate within the pragmatic constraints that we have as a university. So how do you expect the university in such a precarious financial situation as it already is, to make these accommodations, and what is the practical, goal of demanding as much, bearing those considerations in mind?
Yes, so there's two questions there.
Sure, comments. What are your thoughts?
I heard right. Okay.
Committee of the whole,
So
we're just kind of spitballing.
The first question was specifically about let's see, this is the fifth whereas clause, this whereas clause right here. I can just tell you about my intentions with that whereas clause. My intention was not to point at other minorities and say that they've had too much. My point in that whereas clause is to say that we've actually done a decent job. I think we can do more for other minorities, but at some point, the indigenous community was left behind in gaining whatever the rights that we have given to these other minorities, which I think are awesome. So maybe there's a better way I can word that. But I do believe that the indigenous community has been left behind in this move in the last probably 10 years to work closely with minority groups on campus, which I think is good. The second thing that you pointed out was once again was within this whereas clause, and I'll answer this again how I did earlier. This is not my language. I feel that I do not have I do not have the ability to change this language. And once again, this is a resolution. And it should be a challenge. It should be a challenge to the University of Kansas to figure out how to do this. So yeah, I don't know if that answers both your questions. These are things that have been done in the past on different campuses. And so I feel like we can work hard to make these things happen as well.
You know, Anthony, I understand that this is not our
Camden.
language. Okay.
We might actually move past so we can address the other people here. Oh, Sam?
So I'm gonna make a motion to go out of the committee of the whole, just due to, this is a very important issue, and I agree that there are a lot of issues you have to discuss tonight, so.
Yeah.
That's all.
Objection? All right.
Could we make like next speeches and once we move out of committee?
Yeah, no, just be the normal process. of-
Yeah, no.
of this
Can we,
one.
can we time limit for how long we're in committee as a whole so that it doesn't run on forever?
Yeah.
Well, the time limit is y'all. Like at the end of the day.
Like, can I motion for 5 minutes?
Well, no, because technically we're not within Robert's rules when we're in this space.
May I propose another?
People can agree
Yeah.
to move out. Like, do we agree that like we should only be here for like 5 more minutes on this discussion?
I'd
All right.
like to hear Camden. He's
Well,
here
here's
proposing
my
an amendment, I think.
2 cents, and you all are more than free to disregard this if you so choose. This is a substantial piece of legislation, and in my view, I'm sure some of you agree, needs, negotiation and changes to be made. I understand this is indigenous language, but the moment we pass it, it becomes our language. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that, we're taking the proper steps. I think we should table this and discuss it at a later session. And I understand it is time sensitive, but at the same time, making rash responses to events, in my view, is a far worse outcome than, passing a bill with problems.
Yeah, this isn't rash. This is 2 weeks old. This language was put together over a week with Indigenous Studies students. The reason it's coming up in committee of the whole is because in order to get this resolution passed, it would take 2.5 more weeks to get through this assembly. And so now I felt like now is the best time to bring it up because it has already been 2 weeks. The university unfortunately is forgetting about it.
Well, if it's 2 weeks old, then why?
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this back and forth. Okay, before I go to any more questions here, I'm also going to specify like what our options are here. So if you would like to move out of like committee of the whole and have this legislation moved into cycle 4, you can do so by making a motion and getting it seconded. And then we can move out committee of the whole without the legislation. If we do want to consider the legislation this session, as some people might, then we'll stay in committee of the whole. So if people don't want to consider this legislation this session, we can move out of this. Without the legislation? Or
Objection, can I just make one quick statement and then I'll be the one to motion and I can just motion to get out of committee as a whole?
we have like currently on the speaking order, it's Chris, Abdullah, you, and Yegan.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I just ask him a question real quick?
Well, no,
Just
because like at
make
the
your
end of the
motion.
day, like the next person in the speaking order is over here.
Will you remove the clause that Camden was talking about? Yes or no?
I would like to entertain changes to it.
Okay, because I have to be, since I promise to be concise. Respectfully, you're a white man saying how minorities and people of color are being treated on campus and that things have quote unquote gotten better. I don't think that rolls off very well, to be honest with you. I'm going to leave it at that. I have many more comments about this bill. But since you are entertaining the idea of keeping it up there, I just had to get that off my chest, but I'm for tabling this until next cycle.
I understand that my language was, didn't come across how I wanted it to. Again, I wanted to specify that I feel like we've done a good job reaching out to minorities on campus. I feel like there's more we can do to reach out to minorities on campus, but I feel like the Indigenous community has been left behind in that. So I would like to entertain any way to change that, to get that point across. Rather, I don't want to point it at minorities and say they have too much. That's not what I'm intending to do here. So I mean, I would like to entertain how you guys think that should be changed.
Do I see a motion, Sam?
Can I motion that we move this discussion into Robert's
Seconded.
rules?
Yeah,
Thank you.
seconded.
Okay.
All right,
I have,
Yeah, that's fine, but
You can object.
now that we're going back into Robert's rules, we can actually enforce speaking order, if that's the case. Yeah. Because otherwise we can't just have people, talking at each other. It's gonna, be chaos. So yeah, are you moving with the legislation?
I'd like to discuss this legislation. I do agree it's time sensitive. However, I feel that the bounds of the discussion should be within Robert's rules.
Okay. All right, so the motion has been moved and properly seconded to move out of committee of the whole with the generated legislation. Do I see any objections for moving out of committee of the whole with this legislation? All right, seeing no objections, we are now back in regular rules. All right, and so any further questions that need to be asked? Can I get a motion to extend speakers' time, or rather set it? How much time do you think we'll need? I see a motion back there from Angela. All right, second from Megan. All right, and so now it's been properly moved and seconded for a 5-minute time extension. Does anyone object to such time extension? All right, seeing none, this motion passes. All right, and so now we will go into the question order here. First is Chris, next Abdullah, then Lena, then Yegan. Is anyone else wanting, you want to be taken off? All right, anyone else who would like to be added to this question order? Oh, yours is a positive speech? Okay. So just go ahead and add you later. Okay, perfect. All right, Chris, if you want to go ahead and start. Thank you, Camden.
Listen, it's clear this resolution needs a lot of work, and if we consider it all tonight, we are going to be here till 10. I move to postpone indefinitely.
Do I see a second? All right, second.
It's same effect. Postpone indefinitely, we'll push it off to next cycle, at least.
Yeah. All right, any objection to postponing this resolution indefinitely? All right, seeing none, this resolution is postponed. All right, thank you, Anthony. All right. And for this next one, Sadie's here, so can we actually move the community senator one up? Yeah, I'm currently now seeking a motion to move Senate Bill 2023-14 to the top of the agenda so that community senators acclimated under that bill can vote on the rest of the Senate business we have this evening. All right, and do I say a second? Second from Lena. All right, any objection to amending the agenda in this way? Once, twice. All right, seeing none, we will now move forward to that legislation. That legislation was brought by the Students' Assembly, and so I'll go ahead and present it here in our stead. Sam, if you want to. Oh, do you want to present it? Actually, that would be a lot easier. Yeah. Oh, it's on the computer. Yeah. Many cooks in the kitchen for this legislation. And it should be just on one of the Google Docs that's right there.
So it's this one?
No, it's 2023-14. All right, and you'll go ahead and have 2 minutes.
Okay, so for this, we are going to add to the Constitution, the Undergraduate Business Council, Multicultural Greek Council, Panhellenic Association, Interfraternity Council, Muslim Student Association, National Panhellenic Council, Latin American Graduate Organization, and KU Challenge as slots, as organizations that get community senator seats. That's all.
Could you describe the blue amendment as well?
Oh, yes. So any organization, any student organization may get a student senator seat upon amendment of the section of the Student Senate Constitution. So instead of all organizations must notify whether they will appoint a senator before the Joint Senate meets with the outgoing and incoming administrations, the Joint Senate must vote to confirm any changes to the allotted community senator seats.
All right, any questions? Oh, Prasad?
Yeah, is there like a member for groups that get represented?
There's not, but that is something that might be worth discussion.
Any other questions? Do I see a motion? Oh, Chris? Or question or motion?
Friendly?
Friendly? Okay.
Thank you. So I think I like striking out the part in blue, but I think the added language, any student organization may get a student senate seat. I think that's superfluous because if it's being amended to give them a seat in this section, they're going to get a seat in the section, whether it's in there or not. I think the language would be more clear without that sentence.
What would you like to see as alternative language?
Nothing. I think it makes sense without it.
Okay, would you like to make an amendment then? I mean, unless do you consider that friendly? I don't know. I feel that's
Well, I guess it wouldn't realistically
material.
change like the material of the bill. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's still like any student org can get a senator seat as soon as this section's amended. Are you saying that that's maybe superfluous since amendment constitutes that?
I don't think I pronounced superfluous rightly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah, I'd say that's a friendly amendment. It doesn't change the legislation at all.
Okay, cool.
And I'll go ahead and.
Can we do a voice vote on that amendment actually?
Huh?
Can we do you want to do, can we do a voice vote on whether or not amendment's good, or do you want to do the chat?
Oh, well, if there's no objection to the amendment, then it's like friendly.
Yeah, okay.
It doesn't substantially change the legislation.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else? All right, do we have a motion? Motion to pass the legislation or? Huh? For? Oh, it's just gonna be, the blue text is gonna be gone, basically is what's gonna happen. No, because it doesn't materially change the bill. Because at the end of the day, it's still saying that any student org can be like a senator seat, like, yeah. All right, motion to vote. Do I see a second? I see a second from Bander. All right, anyone who objects to moving to a vote on this matter? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and start a vote in the Students Assembly channel. Thank you, Sam.
I don't know if the clapping makes sense as well. I almost think we should stop doing it, but I just hear it. Okay, that's fine. 2023 dash. That's very certain. Yeah, I saw it had you were certain that. I'm very proud of it. Yeah, I know, you were knowing all those cheeks. My God, we give the person very sense. Oh, yeah, we can stop it by. Yeah. No.
All right, everyone, the vote has now been posted to the Students Assembly channel. Please vote yes if you would like to approve this amendment. No, if you would like to not approve the amendment, and abstain if you'd like to stay out of the discussion. Reminder that this does require a 2/3 vote to pass.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Kevin, Austin, Chris. I think. Okay, so you're just here to like still. Yeah, I've been here. All right, yeah, I did the same thing back in my freshman year. I want to get into one placement fees, but it will be blocking. Just make sure you get in, and you still want to do it. It's entertaining. It is. Especially if you do yeah. Camden's chair of finance council, I'm their associate leader, so I come to the meetings, I take notes on what happens for legislation. Yeah. So was I there? Yeah, I was really doing the second thing.
All right, has everyone voted on this legislation that has the ability to do so?
Whoa.
Thank you. Has everyone voted on this legislation that has the ability to do so? All right, seeing no objections, we will go ahead and move to close this vote. And with a vote of 30 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right, and I have the student body president up here who is now going to sign the legislation to put it into effect. Yeah.
So, okay, so usually what we do is you wait 10 days after legislation passes and it's automatically in effect. For it to be in effect like immediately, I have to sign it. Yeah, yeah. So for those of you who sat through fee last year, you all saw this happen then too, under a different set of circumstances. So yeah, the more you know, Senate.
Yes.
Parliamentary procedure. Yay.
All right, thank you so much,
Yep.
Sadie. All right, so now we have here the new senators listed. Do we have the senator for the UBC now? Yep, all right, you are officially acclimated. Do we have anyone here representing Multicultural Greek Council? Panhellenic Association? Interfraternity Council? Muslim Student Association? National Panhellenic Council? Latin American Graduate Organization? Or KU Challenge? All right, seeing none, thank you, Andrew. You are officially able to vote in this space. All right. And now we will move on to the next item on our agenda here, which is the confirmation of a new elections commission member. Is everyone? All right, is Bren Montier here? Come right. Feel free to come up here and introduce yourself and like the work you've been doing here on the elections commission. You'll go ahead and have 2 minutes. Oh, could you pick up the catch box? Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bryn Montieriff. I'm a junior here at KU, living over in Watkins Scholarship Hall. I am currently a political science and film and media production major, specializing in post-production and animation. Like I said, I'm a junior. I've only been here for 1 year, though I'm graduating early. Right now on the Elections Commission, I've only been there for a week, so we haven't been doing much. But one of my other members and I, Rithika, we are currently working on the fall freshman elections and just getting those set up, those opened. I believe we discussed that earlier in the meeting, and that's kind of all I've got.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions for Bren? All right, seeing none, thank you for coming out. All right, and I see a motion to confirm Bren? All right, I see a motion from Angela. Do I see a second? I see a second from Ethan. All right. And with that, it's been properly moved and seconded. Do I have any objections? All right, seeing none, we will now move towards a confirmation vote.
Yeah.
It's right there. All right, that should be hitting the Students Assembly channel now here. Do you confirm Bryn Montieriff for the Elections Commission? Yes, if you would like to confirm, no, if you would not, and abstain if you'd like to stay out of the discussion. This does require a 4/5 vote to pass. And I'll let those roll in for about a minute here.
Really? Discussion in committee of the whole about the Native American ancestry.
All right, new quorum is 26, so we've surpassed that. Still seeing votes roll in though. All right, is there anyone who can vote on this matter that hasn't done so? All right, seeing no objections, we will move to close this vote. All right, and with a vote of 28 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. Congratulations, Bryn. You are now officially appointed to the Elections Commission for a 2-year term. All right, now we will go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is Resolution 2023-300, authored by Sam Sokolov. Right. And Sam, you'll have 2 minutes.
Great. Okay, so this is essentially a resolution in favor of the introduction of microtransit, particularly the e-scooters, but it kind of comes on the heels of Bay Ride in 2019, 2020. Freshman year, we had a bike sharing service here at KU, although that kind of went off a cliff, figuratively and literally. Some people would throw them off things. Anyway, with COVID, basically everybody stopped using it. But nonetheless, 2022, it's this year now. Things have changed. I've also noticed a significant amount of people using scooters and micromobility on campus this year anyway, a lot more than I've noticed any previous year. Also, I have gotten cut off at least 2 times now by a scooter on campus, like on the sidewalks and whatnot. We have no designated place for them. So I'm going to offer an amendment as well to this, that the University of Kansas should study a dedicated bike lane / micro transit lane on Jayhawk Boulevard. I think that the adoption of these vehicles is going to only increase. And so I think that we need to start looking into that at least. So that's all, but I'm done. If I can get an amendment for that.
Yeah, can I motion to make that amendment then, Sanders?
Yes, I'll get it typed up on here. Let me pull this through.
And this is also an issue that I'd like to be like brought up with the master plan people that are working on that. I didn't talk about it tonight because time sensitive, but I think it's worthwhile.
All right, Sam, do you want to come type your amendment here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back up there. All right, so with that, before we get into like the motion for amendment. Before we get into the motion for amendment, does anyone have any other questions for the author of the legislation? I see a question from Austin.
Seems incredibly nitpicky, but context, all this will matter with regard to kind of this exploratory committee. Micro mobility is, kind of equipment and stuff like scooters, kind of personal transport, micro transit, sort of like demand response space, services like vehicle pickups.
Change that word. That's a friendly, yeah.
Change which word?
Transit to mobility.
Where is that? Oh, the transit line.
Mhm.
All right, all right, and Evan, you motioned to get this amendment into the legislation. Do I see a second? All right, I see a second from Camden. Is there anyone who objects to adding this amendment to the legislation? All right, seeing none. Okay, so we will go ahead and move forward on this. Do I see a motion to vote? All right, I see a motion from Bander. Do I have a second? All right, I see a second from Austin. Perfect. All right, anyone who objects to moving towards a vote on this resolution? Oh, I just realized this is not being sent to anyone currently.
Oh, okay.
Do you withdraw your motion to vote on the legislation, Evan? Oh, the amendment? Oh, wait, no, who was the one who voted? Bander. Bander withdraws. Currently, the resolution's going to no one.
Okay, I'd like to add the chancellor.
All right, KU Chancellor.
Yes, the vice provost. Austin, who's the director of transportation at KU?
Wait, the vice provost, which one?
Both.
What?
Barbara Bickelmeyer. What?
Oh, that's the provost.
Sorry, provost. Okay. We'll do that.
Oh.
I don't know. It's the only source of info. Friendly, yeah. Related to Bill, get rid of Corazon.
Oh, I'm adding it to the ledge here. Oh, Margareta DeVries.
And we're
Aaron two A's. Ah, yes.
And then, but I just to do Mayor of Lawrence.
Mayor of Lawrence.
Yeah, Courtney Shipley.
All right, I see something from Chris.
What about the newspaper, the Daily Kansas?
Yeah. Pretty important. All right, any other suggestions for who this resolution should be sent out to?
Mayor McCheese.
Oh.
Sorry.
All right, so currently listed, we have KU Chancellor, Provost, Aaron Quisenberry, Margreta DeVries, Mayor of Lawrence, and the University Daily Kansan.
University president too.
Yeah, why don't we send it to like planning and resources, you might send it planning and resources, and, parking commission, would it be parking commission, that kind of stuff?
Would parking really be involved in transit though, or mobility? Well, isn't that done by, yeah, that's done by Aaron Quisenberry, or? I believe so. All right, do we feel satisfied with as it is currently amended? All right, can I get a motion to add this amendment? All right, I see a motion from Angela, I see a second from Evan. All right, do we have any objection to amending the legislation to include the following individuals receiving a copy of this resolution? All right, seeing none, do I see a motion to vote? All right, motion from Vander. Do I see a second? Second from Trey. All right. Any objections to moving towards a vote on this resolution? All right, seeing none, we will now be moving towards a vote. You can go ahead and get that sent out. What is Aaron Quisenberry's like title? So Director of Transportation Services. All right, the vote has now gone up on the Students Assembly channel. So vote yes if you would like to pass this resolution, no if you do not want to, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. I'll let this vote run for about 2 minutes. All right, everyone, currently we have 25 votes. We need one more vote to hit quorum. So if you have not voted yet, please do so. All right, has anyone not voted on this legislation that has the ability to do so? Seeing no objections, we will move to close the vote. All right. With a vote of 25 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, this motion clearly passes and the resolution is adopted. All right. Just to give us a reminder of like what else is coming up tonight, we still have Senate Bill 15, Senate Bill 11, Senate Bill 13, and Senate Bill 12. So 4 more pieces of legislation to go through before the end of the night here. And so with that in mind, we'll be moving on to the next item on our agenda, which is Senate Bill 23-15, a bill to allocate reserve funds to repurchase the campus-wide New York Times subscription. And that'll be presented by the Chair of the Finance Council, Camden Baxter. Right? You'll have 2 minutes, Camden.
Okay, I'll do my best to keep this short and hopefully a little sweet.
Oh, and probably move to the ledge.
What?
The ledge on screen.
Oh, do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's already on one of the Google Docs, so it's the one at the end since it's 15.
Can you
Perfect.
see that? Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead and start my time. As I said, try to keep this brief. As many of you know, especially the Chief of Staff, Sam Sokoloff, a lot of our students are, shall we say, disgruntled about the cancellation of the campus-wide New York Times subscription. And I found myself one of them. So I should explain the way the reserve funding works. The Student Senate does not spend every dollar that it receives every year, and what's left over after the allocations have been made goes into what's known as the reserve fund. Due to some turnover issues, it took us a little bit to ascertain the exact value of what is in the reserve fund, and we now know that we are in possession of somewhere in excess of $300,000, which is great because New York Times subscription for the entire campus, and this includes staff, faculty, and students, is roughly $13,000, $12,900 to be exact. So bearing in mind that there have been a wide range of student complaints, mainly made to Chief of Staff Sam Sokoloff, who can attest that his inbox has been full of students. Where's my New York Times subscription? The fact that it is, I believe, in our best interest to have an informed student body with easy access to high quality journalism. And above all else, our peers have spoken, and I believe it is time for us to listen. And here we have an opportunity to tangibly affect everyone at this university by giving them access to our favorite, or maybe not your favorite, national newspaper. When with a 2/3 majority, we can do exactly that. That's all I have.
All right, do we have any questions for Camden?
Yeah.
I'd also like to first clarify, this is just for like the 1-year contract through the end of the fiscal year, correct?
Yes, that is correct. It's a 52-week access period. And I should add that I've been communicating with the New York Times people in order to implement this. So it's kind of already in the works. We'll get it figured out.
And then for continuity of services, we would have to discuss this in fee.
Yes, that was
that.
the plan.
Awesome. All right, any questions on the floor here? We have 35 seconds remaining.
What do you got?
Oh, Holly has a motion. Motion to vote. Do I see a second? Second from Abdullah. All right. And do we have any objections to voting on this measure? All right, seeing none. Nathaniel, can you put the vote on the teams? Thank you, Camden. Yeah.
I thought that was very sweet. I thought that was sweet. It wasn't sweet.
All right. Now that vote is going out onto the Students Assembly channel. Do you agree with Senate Bill 23-15? Yes, if you would like to vote in favor, no if not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. Reminder that we need to reach 26 votes at least, so make sure that you are voting promptly. Point of
Parliamentary procedure. Why does it still require 2/3?
This bill requires 2/3 because it's an amendment of our budget.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I know. I should have mentioned that in there. That's a rounding error, right? We don't, once you know the unallocated, we start really dropping.
Less on what's in the unallocated, so you can buy the athletic.
Realistically speaking.
No way. Breaking news, Huddersfield hedge fund. Breaking news.
Is it the company? Pay off the weak people student.
What?
With $300,000, pay off.
All right, is there anyone who hasn't voted on this legislation that has the ability to do so? I thought not, at least I hope. All right, and with a vote of 26 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this motion clearly passes. All right, so to give a view of like what this process will look like after the fact, exec will work to finalize the contract with the New York Times, sign that up, and students will have access to the New York Times subscription once that is complete. All right. Thank you so much. All right, and with that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is Senate Bill 23-11, a bill to amend the Student Senate Constitution Funding Guidelines. And I believe that was authored by Turner Seals, our treasurer. And Turner, you will have 2 minutes to present. It's Bill 11, so you can just go ahead and move forward.
How do I do this? Is there a mouse? Is it this thing?
No, it's the hidden keyboard. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and close these ones out since we finished discussion there. Yeah, there's your bill.
All right, I'm gonna be super quick since it's 8:34.
Can we please be quiet for our
All right,
speaker? Thank
I'm
you.
gonna take 15 seconds. I changed the constitution to allow groups to buy food. And also they can purchase walkable items. That's it. That was quick.
All right, and with that, do we have any questions for Turner? Oh, motion to vote. Oh, you object. Do you still want to go through with the motion? Rescind it. All right, a question from Farzad.
Yes, $500. Why would you like to do that?
Can we get like a mic?
Can I
Sure.
say why I would like to not do that? Because a lot of groups, in the groups that usually purchase food right now, they go through DEI line. So they go, or not DEI line, but DEI funding. And many times these groups purchase more than $500 because they have large events. I honestly don't think there should be a purchase restriction, but I just want to start there. I would like to shift more of I would like to offer another area for these groups that hold these big events to get funding. So if we restrict it to 200, that pretty much defeats the purpose of what I think this bill should do. I think we should be able to fund multiple hundreds of dollars for group events that have lots of students attend.
Follow-up question.
Granted.
Okay, do you have any projections on how much this would cost Student Senate?
No, I don't. I don't think it would very much increase what this would cost because we have a healthy balance in the DEI account, but there are groups that there are also groups that aren't cultural organizations that have a lot of people attend them. And I think it should be an option for them to be able to purchase food for their students.
Another question.
All right, I have a question from Chris first though, so, and we only have like 9 seconds remaining.
Extend 2 minutes.
Extend 2 minutes. Second, any objections to extending speakers' time by 2 minutes? All right, seeing none, time is extended. Chris, you may go ahead.
Just to clarify, the Finance Councils or the Finance Council and the Social Justice Council have already passed funding bills that go against the walkability restrictions, right?
So not necessarily. are you referring to the KU Gamers bill?
Yeah.
So the way we interpreted that is that with the purchase of a Nintendo Switch, although it's walkable, and although there are remotes that are walkable, since it's plugged in to a certain space and whatever, it's all together, it's hard to walk out with it without being caught, however you want to perceive that. What we did was we worked around the item in the Constitution, which I think is kind of pointless. Like someone could perceive or interpret those as walkable. We obviously did not. I just think the whole point of it is pointless for certain items. I think there are many walkable items that groups would benefit from. So I took that out as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Right, thank you.
All right, Farzad.
Yeah, so would this $500 still have to go through Senate every single time they apply for it?
So the way this would work is that $500 is just it's just an upper limit. So any group that wants that $500 would go to finance and another council and then go through here. So everyone would see those applications. If that makes sense. So it'd be like any other bill. It'd be like any of the other bills we just funded tonight. It'd be like any of those. So same process.
All right. Motion to vote. Do I see a second? I see a second from Ethan. All right. And so now it's been properly moved and seconded. Do we have any objections to moving towards a vote? All right, seeing none, we will now move towards a vote on Senate Bill 23-11. Thank you very much, Turner. You are relieved. All right, that vote should be appearing on the Assembly channel now. Do you agree with Senate Bill 23-11? Sure you know the choices by now, so please choose wisely. All right, anyone who hasn't voted on this measure that can? All right, seeing none, we will move to close the vote. And with a vote of 27 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, and 1 abstention, this motion clearly passes. All right, and we will now move to Senate Bill 2023-13, a bill to amend SSR Title II, Article 9 to establish required bill summaries. And is Kevin here to present that? All right, Sam, would you like to present that instead as the other author? All right.
Where is it?
Oh, it's like you went past it. It was the. Yeah.
Okay, this is just basically requires a brief bill summary for each bill. And then Kevin gives an example.
Can we please be quiet for our speaker? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, just a brief bill summary, and then Kevin provides a little like example. Not that this example is like beholden. It's not like what bill summary is, but it kind of provides an example of what a bill summary would be. But But all that this legislation does is just amends right there with the red. Legislation must include, it amends the Constitution. Legislation must include a brief bill summary that indicates what the bill will do and why it is necessary. So that's all.
All right, do we have any questions? I see, oh, motion to vote. Is that a question or is a motion? To amend it? Well, yeah, what's the amendment? Yeah,
Okay, so for the people that were at finance council with me last week, I made a mistake. We tried to add something in where it was like bills under 1 page don't need a bill summary, and for some reason that didn't process in my brain right. So I would like to add that back in, that bills under one. Let me see, how about like funding bills? Under 1 page don't need a description, because when you read those bills, they're super simple to read and they don't need a description. Does that make sense? Because like, yeah,
that's friendly.
all right. Well, that wouldn't be friendly because it does change.
Okay, well, I
the
consider it
structure.
friendly.
Yeah. I'm
Makes sense.
working on it, so. All right. And what was the amendment again textually?
the amendment should say bills, funding bills under 1 page do not need to include a bill summary. Sorry for those that were at finance council that I posed that last time. It's my bad.
First the athletic and now this.
I'm just a negative guy, I guess.
All right, so now it states legislation must include a brief bill summary that indicates what the bill will do and why it's necessary. However, funding bills under 1 page shall be exempt from this bill summary requirement. Do I see a motion? All right,
Motion to vote.
motion to vote on this amendment, second from Bander. All right, is there anyone who objects to this amendment as written? All right, seeing none, the amendment passes. Do I see a motion to vote? All right, motion to vote from Lena, and I see a second. What was your name again? Emma. All right. And with that, any objection to moving towards a vote? Seeing none, we will now move towards a vote on Senate Bill. Oh,
Bill less than 1 page. If it's less than 1 page, then it's 0 pages and that doesn't.
It says under 1 page. Under functions as it is less than 1.
Okay,
Wait.
Check out the Oxford English Dictionary to interpret it. We should probably. check
Like
it.
1 full page of text. So it's under a full page of text. Unless you want to create font requirements.
I like that change.
I don't know.
Full
Then people
funding
weasel their
bills.
way out of a bill summary.
At 12 point times New Roman font.
It's like 2.5.
shorter than. Okay, so however, funding bills shorter than 1 full page shall be exempt. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right. And that'll be a friendly since that doesn't change the amendment as it stands. All right, and so any objections to now moving forward with the vote? All right, seeing none, we're gonna go ahead and get that posted in the assembly channel. All right, it is now popping up in the assembly channel. Do you agree with Bill 23-13? Yes, if you agree, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. We are definitely close to the end here. Yeah. Everything's said. Oh, I need to remember to never get one. Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, if we miss it, then we miss it, and we can't go back. Okay, is there anyone who has not yet voted on this legislation that has the ability to do so? All right, seeing none, I will move to close this vote here. Oh. 27. All right. Okay, we'll delete that one. All right, and with a vote of 27 in the affirmative, 0, oh, well, one's being counted out because it's not a voting member. 27 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions. This motion clearly passes. All right. And now we're on to our final piece of legislation for tonight, Senate Bill 23-12, which is going to be presented by Sadie, the student body president. All right, Sadie, you'll have 2 minutes, or do you need more? I know it's textually a long bill.
Let's start with 2 minutes. Because this body's already voted on a similar bill.
True.
So I can start with 2.
All right. Your time begins.
So this is bill, basically like a reprisal and edit of bill like 001 from the first cycle this year. That was the one that was like voted on here and then passed back to rights, and then rights failed it with like some recommendations of edits. And so those edits are reflected on this. And so I am just going to run through the edits of this. For a refresher, it's about advisory boards for the student senate, like fee entities. So like transportation, Watkins, CAPS, things like that. And so that's all this is covering, is like what those should look like and everything like that. Oh. That's a good point.
All right, there we
Is it
go.
This one? Okay, so I'll spend most of my time here because I can highlight the differences there. And so it's based off of Alessia's bill again in the first cycle. And so one of the big changes is actually not based on the recommendation of rights. It's based off of the recommendation of the fee manager themselves. For Watkins and CAPS, they asked to separate the Student Health Advisory Board into 2 parts. So it'd be Watkins and CAPS separately, since they're both pretty large entities. And so that's why they're separated there. It's mental health services and not CAPS alone, because I also added Burt Nash under there because we do have a small fee that goes towards them. And then Student Rec and Safety Board are the same. Student Environmental Advisory Board, they oversee a funding board and the recycling. And then LSS, Silk are the same. I added the Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity. I added that whole advisory board because before they were under one called the Women's Leadership Board, and I pulled them out and then put the Women's Leadership Board underneath them. So it was clear which fee it was assigned to based off of the recommendations of rights regarding clarity. And then the Office of Multicultural Affairs and SGD advisory boards are there still. Then I added a SAPEC advisory board because there wasn't one present based off of the recommendations of rights to add one for all the fee entities. DEI Fund Advisory Board already exists. I've seen like a minute.
All right, I see that motion. Second from Prasad. All right, and any objection to extending time? I thought not. All right, 1 minute time extension.
And then EUF already exists. It's going to be the same. And then SMMS and Hilltop were both added because they didn't previously exist. They all basically have the same function, which is right under here. Like as an example, it has the purpose, the membership. Most of them are elected by the councils, like 1 rep or 2 representatives, and then some of them will have appointments as well. And then under all the appointments, there's a clause that's like, it should be a diverse group of students appointed to these advisory boards. That's to replace the specific language that was critiqued by rights regarding which types of identity should be held there. And so now it's just generally should be in a diverse group of people. And then that is basically it for what was the main changes in here. And then at the very, very bottom, there's a yellow highlighted section. Nothing in it changed. There's no edits to the actual text. It's just on here because it's moving locations for clarity. So it's going to come, it's the campus fee review committee like explanation. It's just going to come before everything else now. So it just makes sense as a flow. And that's it.
All right, were there any questions? I do have a negative speech here.
Yeah, you got it.
All right.
Is there any questions?
Can I say something?
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Where you put Student Environmental Advisory Board, can you change it to Sustainability Advisory Board? Because that's like the name change. That's what it's called in the OAC stuff.
I guess. Yeah, that's fine.
Friendly, okay. And should we just consider that a friendly at
Yeah,
that point?
it doesn't
Okay,
substantially change it. It just makes Turner's life easier and everyone who follows him
fair.
in like an actual, like measurable way. Like I'm not even kidding. But yeah.
All right, I will come up to present. Sam, if you can go ahead and take the chair here.
Can I do that one, please?
Can't do none.
Yeah, okay, I'll edit it before we pass it.
All right. And on top of this, I just wanted to add an amendment to the Watkins Health Advisory Board here. So I just went ahead and posted that. By the way, my time has started, right, Sam? 2 minutes, perfect. All right, so I just wanted to add this amendment here to the Watkins Health Advisory Board. One of like the many forms of treatment provided at Watkins Health Services is gender affirming care for KU's transgender community. Watkins generally needs like transgender voices on the advisory board to provide feedback and look at means of improving this service. So in the 4 undergraduate seats that were available here on the Watkins Advisory Board, I have amended to add 1 must be a transgender student and 3 must be undergraduate students. And so, yeah, I'm just seeking some motion. Oh, I see a motion from Chris over there, Sam, or a question.
Comment? Can I do
Yeah, or, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Hi, so I remember the first time we considered this bill, when it was 2023-001. Sorry, one of the big problems was that it specified that certain seats on the advisory board would be filled by students from certain backgrounds. I remember Student Rights and Affairs was really worried that that would create legal issues. Are you sure that this won't have the same effect? I do think it's valuable. I'm just worried about the same thing Rights was worried about.
I don't think it will have the same effect. Frankly, it's not been like adjudged that this is going to be like a legal issue. And so frankly, I think it's an important portion of representation for it.
All right, sounds good.
All right,
Can I also like?
Sam, you're chairing currently.
Yes, I know. Sorry, Abdullah. Yeah.
You ready?
So I looked through the document and it doesn't look like there's any quota language, but if anybody sees something like that, just let us know so we can amend it now. The problem was with quotas because we don't know for sure if that's illegal or not.
Sorry. I get a motion to extend speaker time. Cool. Second. Okay. How many 2 minutes?
Yeah, we don't know for sure if that's particularly illegal or not, but when we talked to legal services, they said it might be. So if you see anything like quotas in this bill and in future bills, just let us know. Let us change it before we get sued. Lawsuits have happened here. So, yeah.
I have the answer to that on this bill anyway. There's not, as it stands, any quota language. There's only one thing that could like, kind of, and there's only the only distinction in here of undergrad and graduate students. There's no quota language in it as it stands, but it's that.
Oh, sorry.
Cool. So I chair this committee. I totally agree with having transgender representation. My question was, is it possible that we could just add a seat instead of taking away one from other undergraduate students? Because to me, I don't really think it functionally makes that big of a difference if you just add a seat, and I don't want to take away a spot from,
Oh, I mean, I'd be in support of that.
Okay. I mean, yeah. It's my suggestion.
Would you like to make an amendment?
Yeah, sure. I'm in the amendment. Motion officially.
Well, that one is PDF form, but yeah, so what you would want is 1 transgender student and then keep it at 4 undergraduates.
And then add 10 or make 10, 11.
11.
At the very top.
Can you edit that on your computer?
No, I can only edit on my laptop there,
Okay.
so
I don't have it up.
get that done.
Mhm.
And then I think Lena had a question.
No, you shouldn't.
Wait a second. Let her-
Huh?
I'm just gonna let you write that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can.
All right, we get a motion to extend by 2. Thank you, Anthony. Second.
Second.
Any objections? Great.
Yeah. Well. Right, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna bring them.
All right, that amendment has now been made to the actual legislation. So if you, or I don't know why I'm saying you, I can switch it to it.
Lena, go ahead.
Thank you. So
Hello.
I have a two-pronged question. It should be concise though. So isn't adding the transgender slot, wouldn't that be adding to the quota issue? Because you're creating a spot for a certain identity,
Oh, I don't think so, personally.
because that's what a quota system is. Like, that's the definition of a quota.
No, it's like it's adding a seat for representation.
Okay, I respectfully disagree, but my second question is, if you're adding transgender students, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that you're doing that because you want minority voices seen on this panel? Because
mean-
that's a service that Watkins provides, is that correct?
I mean, ideally, yes, because that was what I put in the original text of this bill, that I wanted to maintain like the representation system that the original Senate had there. But in particular, you know, as a transgender student myself, I think it's very important that they have voices on like things that affect them in terms of gender affirming care.
So representation,
Yes.
essentially? Okay, so what about other identities getting represented here? Because we're providing one minority group, which would be, in this case, transgender students, with a voice on something that's affecting student health. And
Well,
we're
I'm
not-
adding something that is important to me, you know, as
Motion to extend by 1 minute.
Okay, Lena, second by Abdullah. Any objections? Okay.
So yeah, I'm adding something that's important to me as a transgender student who receives this gender affirming care at Watkins Health Services. I didn't add the others because I didn't want to add to the controversy of this legislation, as it was like the Rights and Affairs Council that did remove the other representation specifically
But
allocated.
we removed them explicitly because they were a quota system, which this is doing as well. Because if we're not gonna include.
Lena, I gave you two questions. You can, okay.
I
Do you,
just-
can you, there's another motion, other people want to speak. Okay, Holly.
Objection.
All right, what's the objection?
We need more discussion.
Well, why don't we just have a vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just,
Okay, we're gonna vote then on the motion. Should we do we're gonna do a vote on.
Point of order, shouldn't we vote on the amendment and then the bill?
Yes, we should.
Yeah, we should. So we'll start with the amendment then, or motion to vote on the amendment.
All right, so
We're voting on the amendment.
so now that the amendment's been presented, I can retake the chair here.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I have a point of information?
Yes.
As a lawyer.
Yes.
There's a lot. So basically, if you have any problem with the language, if there's any legal issue, sometimes it's not clear whether or not we have a legal problem. In that situation, you could just look at it online, in that situation, enact the laws, and then the language could be listed by bringing cases. And then the case would be listed for the legal issue that we have. But at the beginning, we could just go ahead and put the laws or regulation as they are, and then could be listed in the future. There's no issue, there's no liability to enact that law because it's not clear whether or not we have legal problem.
Do we have the?
Okay, the vote is up.
Yeah, so if you do agree with the motion to vote on the amendment, then yes, to vote in favor of the amendment. No, if you would not like to vote in favor of the amendment, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. A reminder that amendments to the legislation will only require a simple majority vote. All right, we currently need 2 more votes. So yeah, if you haven't voted, everything's good. All right, anyone who hasn't voted on this legislation that wishes to do so, okay, I'm seeing people who haven't voted yet. Please get those votes in within the next minute here. All right. Oh. I see. Do you just want to do a voice vote from there or from here? Oh, yes. Okay. Can you go ahead and add that? All right. So is there anyone who hasn't voted yet that has the ability to do so? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and close this poll. And with a vote of 24 in the, or 25 in the affirmative, adding that voice vote, 2 in the negative and 3 abstentions, this amendment clearly passes.
The motion to vote on the amendment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, that is the amendment.
No. Bill had an objection to vote on the amendment. Yeah, now we're gonna vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what got called.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have another vote.
All right.
On the bill side.
So now we will go into, do you agree with that's a fun title, Alessia's amendment? Yes, if you would like to agree, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. Following this vote, we will then go into a vote on whether or not to vote on the legislation. So please get those in promptly. I know we're all trying to get out of here very quickly. All right, can you check it as we go?
You must have skipped the orientation.
All right, still waiting for 4 more votes to reach our quorum. Oh, thumbs up. Perfect. All right, can you mark that down? Mark Richardson, thumbs up.
All
right.
All right. Still waiting for 1 more vote. So if you have not voted yet, please do so.
You get like Pepsi products, like.
All right, everything's good? Yes. All right. Any other people? Seeing none. All right, we will move to close the vote here. And with a vote of 20 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 5 abstentions, this motion clearly passes. All right, do I see a motion to vote on the legislation as amended? Second. All right, so motion from Camden, or motion from Holly, second from Camden. Any objections towards voting on this legislation? All right, seeing none, can you go ahead and get that vote on the teams?
We do have like a $500 proprietary by itself, like a restaurant. There are like rules on that, but we can totally say what, it's like $100. Give pizza for everyone, right? There's nothing to really stop it.
Huh? 2023-12
I think that
as amended.
you need a 500. That would actually work. You could probably get that about $75 per meeting. I could have started next year.
Yeah, as amended. Yes, no, abstain.
It was funny that we went out to meeting.
We need it.
Which would be cool. If we
All right, everyone. So just closing discussion here. Do you agree with Senate Bill 23-12 as amended? Yes, if you would like to endorse the bill, no, if you do not, and abstain to stay out of the discussion. This will be our last vote of the night. And Sadie, would you like to come make an announcement regarding your get involved announcement at the bottom of the agenda here while we're voting, just for time's sake?
Okay. Is it like linked on there? Can we see it anywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of hit the.
If you'd like to, it's on the agenda specifically. So if you go to assembly and then to files, agendas, and then right there, the top one. And we currently still only have 22 votes. We do need 4 more votes. I see a vote from Mark, so now 23 here.
Okay, while you're voting, this isn't like a vote or anything like that we have to vote on. I'm just letting you all know. We are trying to get a campus-wide email sent out. It's gonna be quite the feat. So if you ever see this hit your inbox, give me a high five next time you see me, because that is going on my resume, because that's how difficult it is. But this is basically what I'm wanting to go out to all like students at KU. It's just a breakdown of Senate in like a very like easy way. And so first, background, I'm gonna change it to funding in all caps because I think it'll get more people to read it. But I've linked like how they can get funding for their student orgs in there, as well as like a little bit about the fee and where they can get more information about that. And then I have a replacement senator application section talking about that, so we can hopefully get some seats filled. I have a first year elections tab for the like first year students and everything like that as well. Advisory boards, and I have that form linked. And then I have something about our judicial branch too, so we can get people involved that way and what that looks like. And then also a meeting schedule, and then a little note at the end as well. And so it's just one means of outreach. Most students won't read it, but some hopefully will. And even if it's one, it's fine. And then we're also going to be tabling too. I know that thanks to Miss Riley Moreland herself, she read my officer report earlier this meeting, but we are doing voter registration this month and get out to vote after that. And so we'll also be giving you all throughout that like some like Senate materials too to help spread the word. So when we'll keep the tabling and that type of thing after that too. So like we're really gonna try and outreach. We're gonna try and at least let people know that Student Senate is a thing, even if they don't know what it is, they'll at least know the name. And so that is the goal for this whole year. But yeah, any questions? Anything that you all think I should add? Okay.
All right, well, thank you for that, Sadie. And is anyone needing to vote on this like legislation here? Seeing none, this legislation has 25 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, so it clearly passes. Motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn from Adula, second from Andrew. Any objections? I'm guessing not by the seats.
Great. Now that we're adjourned, we will have a special plus 21 student senate this game at Rick's. So you're all invited if you are of age. Yeah.
We're going to Rick's?